Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
When Raja Parikshita became the king of Bharat, this is the time when Bhagavan Krishna had taken away his embodiment. When Bhagavan Krishna took his embodiment away, that marked the beginning of Kali. The word Kali comes from kala, 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 noise. There's noise everywhere. Kali means selfishness. And when Raja Parikshita became the king, he didn't want any selfishness in his kingdom. So he traveled through his whole kingdom trying to find Kali. And as he was traveling, he came across a scene where there was this man dressed in black, and he had a cane in his hand, and he was beating a bull. He had already broken 3 legs of this bull and was on his way to breaking the 4th. And near this bull was a cow, and this cow was weeping, seeing the condition of the bull. So Raja Parikshita quickly got to that place and stopped that man from beating this bull and said, "I will tend to you shortly." And he turned to the bull and said, "Are you sad because this man is beating you, is breaking your legs?" And that bull turns to Raja Parikshita and says, "Your question is laughable. To think that someone else can cause me sorrow. This bull is being beaten and has 3 legs broken, but still has the strength." The Dharma is saying, it's laughable to think that someone else can cause me sorrow. And if you're thinking deeply about this statement, you have to spin it the other way too. It's laughable to think that someone else can cause you joy. In Sanskrit, we often reference yatha drishti, tatha srishti. As your vision, so is your creation. This has been a 2-part retreat. We studied finding your balance for 4 days. Now we've studied, or are studying, finding calmness in chaos for 4 days. Balance and calmness are in your vision. They are not outside of you, even if someone is breaking your legs. That's an extreme example. You will invoke this vision if you want balance, if you want calmness. And if you don't, if that sincerity is not backing that balance and calmness, you will never find balance or calmness. It is not in Srishti, it is in your Drishti, your vision. Last year, we began our study with shlokas 10 through 17, where Bhagavan Krishna is telling Prince Arjuna, someone who knows is telling someone who wants to know. There is existence, but forgetting existence, we start to believe there is the limited. Turning this into Vedanta, Brahman, Maya, Gunas. There is only existence, but if you forget that, you start to believe there is only the limited. Such as, what do you see? What do you see?
A phone.
Phone is the name of it. What do you see?
object.
You see a square, metal, plastic. But how come you don't see the existence? Why is it that you give such focus to the name and to the form without acknowledging the existence? The name depends on the form depends on the existence doesn't depend on anything. And that applies to all. This room, you. These limits, which we call gunas, some of these limits make us more worldly, more limited, like tamas, laziness, rajas, aggression. Some of these limits pull us away from the world. They make us lighter, like sattva, calmness. And that applies in the present and in the future. The way you are today will create the trajectory for you tomorrow. Small example of that. Many of you did not practice Mauna last night or this morning. And it's laughable, maybe it's sad, that one open mic night, one last night before the retreat is over, and see how much forgetfulness there is. Instead of invoking that calmness, we immediately went back to rajas. And then tamas, being late for the final discourse in this 8-day retreat. If you want it, and some of you don't want it. Whatever you were last night creates this morning. Whatever you are today will create tomorrow. There is no escaping your vision. Which is why we've been hammering. Blaming is just a sign of forgetfulness. We shifted to shloka 18, where Bhagavan Krishna tells Prince Arjuna, calmness is a catalyst for evolution. When you are calm, you grow. You can take that physically. If a seed keeps shaking in the soil, can that seed find root and grow? No. But if that seed is in a stable place, it finds its place and grows. Swami Tejomayananda did a talk on spiritual parenting. And what was his first piece of advice to parents? Be calm. That was his first piece of advice, guidance is, be calm. I would say the same applies to us when we're interacting with our parents, interacting with anyone. Be calm. Because then you can evolve, and if you're not calm, you can't think, you can't speak, you can't act. For the 18th shloka, our tactile point was, own what you use. With the idea being, when we own what we use, we become more independent. Independence is a sign of someone who is calm. When we're very rattled, we're dependent on more recognition, dependent on more food. In the 19th shloka, we studied that one with vision sees that the limited is supported by existence. If you have vision, if you have understanding, you know that this name is dependent on the form and the form is dependent on existence. That existence is most independent. In Vedanta, we call this God. What is our God? Our God is Sat, or existence. We call this truth. Truth has to be that which is most universal, that which applies to all. My form is different than yours. Your name is different than mine. But our existence is one. So we have these externalized versions of God, and then you can't identify with that. But God is Sat, existence. This is the truth. With this vision, one becomes free from limits. Functionally, you know this person is such and such, but fundamentally, you know they're the same as you are. And don't tell me that you don't use vision. One person's trash is another person's treasure. Externally, exactly the same. Internally, very different. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. When you saw the 3 professors on the video, some of you thought, maybe that person is better looking. Maybe this person is better looking. That person has a strange haircut. That person has an awesome haircut. But it's exactly the same sight, but the vision is different. So we use vision, but in a worldly way, so we stay worldly. And Bhagavan Krishna is telling Arjuna, go deeper. This weekend, I'm going to Pittsburgh, and I'm facilitating a young adults retreat, and the title is Go Deeper. From beauty, which is just the skin, to bliss, which is that divinity. And we'll be studying Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Patanjali has taken the message of the Upanishad, but shared this in a yoga sense. A more tactile way of practicing what the Upanishads teach. In shloka 19, what is introduced is the purpose of our life. Purpose. And the same is shared in shloka 20. And the tactile point, so I'm clear, in 19 was create a sleep culture. How was that last night? Create a sleep culture. If you don't have a sleep culture, you tend to be extrovert. You don't develop that vision. You keep living by sight. 20 also brings up the purpose of our life. 19 and 20 are talking about purpose, talking about freedom. In 20, Bhagavan says, the limited creates more of that which is limited. In other words, this body is created because of the gunas. This body is because of a blueprint. So the limited creates more that is limited. So you can't win this game without vision. Worldly problems are not solved by worldly solutions. This vision is imperative again. When I know that this limit is not me, all the other limits that come with this limit also is not me. I am not subject to these limits. I am free. In some European countries, when you graduate from high school, it is mandatory that you join the military. I had a friend in high school who was a Cypriot, and he actually left Cyprus to move to Canada because he didn't want to join the army. He didn't want to be involved in that. And as soon as he became a Canadian citizen, he was free of that limit, correct? But as long as he was a Cypriot, he had to, using this as an example, go through that limit. Be free is the purpose of every moment of why we're here. The tactile point for shloka 20, was no sound drive. When we are involved in kala noise, that becomes our reality. If you can start to appreciate no sound, you can start to appreciate silence. That is being free. Can silence ever be dirty? Can silence ever be ugly? Silence is God. Silence is the truth. Silence is universal. When Prince Arjuna hears this, he is fascinated. He calls Bhagavan Prabhu. He uses the same terminology as Bhagavan. You can't help but love a person like Prince Arjuna, who's so sensitive to not accepting meaninglessness, to having a passion for development. He asks Bhagavan Krishna, how do you know when someone is free? And he externalizes it, but then he goes deeper and says, how can I be free? So how do you know freedom? How do you be free? Are Arjuna's two questions. And when a student asks a question like that, the teacher is elated. If you're a jogger and you have to jog with someone slow, it sometimes is frustrating because they limit what you can do. But if you're a jogger and you're jogging with someone who's faster than you, they bring out the best in you. So here, the student has brought out the best in Bhagavan Krishna, if that's possible. For the 21st shloka, the tactile point was remember your role model. When Prince Arjuna is fascinated, who does he go to? Someone who can help, not someone who needs help. If I'm miserable, why would you come to me for joy? Correct? You go to people who are balanced, people who are calm. So he remembers Bhagavan Krishna. Bhagavan Krishna starts to answer. In shloka 22, he says, you know someone is free. You know freedom when, even though there's inner change, there's no chaos. Remember, the gunas are also in here. You have lazy thoughts, you have aggressive thoughts, you have calm thoughts. When these thoughts are coming, when these desires are coming, there's a lot of inner change, but someone who's free is not chaotic, is not shaky. They know these are just thoughts. You know how many thoughts we have a day? I had read somewhere we have 60,000 thoughts a day. That's 500,000 thoughts a week, generally. That's 1.5 million thoughts. 15 million thoughts a month. Wait, that's 2 million thoughts a month. 2 million. Which one are you? The one that says you're good or the one that says you're bad? For the sensitive student of Vedanta, they know they're first not bad, then they know they're not good. They are the awareness that illuminates those thoughts. So even when there's inner change, no chaos. If you can pick up this shloka, you know, when people practice contemplation, the first challenge with contemplation is life, lethargy, sleepiness. Because all we think about is worldliness, that when we think of something deeper, I just can't handle it. I give up. When you give up, that's going to sleep. The second is restlessness. Restlessness of the mind, but also restlessness of the body. And so I share with people, when you have that thought to scratch, that thought to move, it's just a thought. Watch it come in, watch it go. But when it comes in, we treat it to be so real, you own the thought, which means you have to act on the thought. But if you start to be an observer, this is just a thought. Who cares if I don't scratch or move? Nothing's going to happen to my body. You become calm. Every time you move your body, you re-identify with the body. It's like digging a hole at the beach. You know, you're digging, wave comes in. Digging, wave comes in. But if you focus on being healthy, being calm, you disidentify from that body, you don't come back. Whatever this body is going through, you will not be subject to that. When they found Sri Ramana, he was in a mandir in a corner where they threw old flowers and fruit. He was just buried under there. Insects were eating into his body. But he was just not there. And he did all of that in here. It's not like he was a strong person. Everyone here is probably physically stronger than he was. But mentally, he wasn't even the mind. His was divinity, pure divinity. Tactile point for 22 is blame the weather. The weather inside. That if there's anger, that anger belongs to Rajas, not to you. There's a difference. When someone is angry, we say they're an angry person. They're expressing anger. They're not an angry person. When you go to sleep, what happens to your anger? It's not there because it's not you. If you can pick up on that too, all of the stress we have in our lives, you're not a stressful person. Stress is being expressed. In 23, Bhagavan says, you know freedom when one is udasina. Udasina in Hindi means somber, stoic. Udasina in Sanskrit means sitting above. The person who owns this retreat center, they're probably not here, probably. So they're not cleaning the dishes, they're not checking the lake, they're not turning on the air conditioning. They're udasina, correct? They're sitting above. And sometimes when we interpret that, it's like being a bossy person. It's like giving orders. I'm sitting here, obviously things aren't going to affect me. But you see in the same shloka, in the second line, what word came up? Avatishtati. That they are centered in the self, but what are they also doing? Moving. What perfection in teaching that maybe I think udasina means just do nothing. But the next word is avatishtati. Doing nothing inside, but doing lots outside. Being the most dynamic personality. I brought up this thought a lot in Srimad Bhagavad Gita's chapter 5 in our course. So I'm going to give you a chart to try to understand what it means to practice avatishtati. An animal, a person who's like an animal, inside they believe they are the karta, that they are the doer. Outside, there is no karma. They're actually not doing anything. An animal like human, inside will always say, I'm the doer, I'm the doer, I'm the doer. But what have they actually done? Nothing. They're that person who wants recognition when they don't deserve recognition. Like an animal. Animal here, I'm not saying animals psychologically think like that, but the point is that they're instinctual, they're not intellectual. A human believes they're the karta engaged in karma. That they are the doer. So inside they're doing, outside they're also doing. That's like us, no? That sense of rajas. I'm doing, and I am doing, and then I get lost and I deserve compliments, criticism. The animal's like a tamasic, the tamasic quality. But here's where we should be. God, there's no karta inside. That I don't feel like I'm the doer. Outside there is karma. They're the person who's contributing the most, creating the most, and it's because they're not playing games that I need to deserve this. I need recognition. I need you to do the same as I'm doing. Reciprocity. So in Shloka 23, Bhagavan brings out that God personality where inside, I am not a karta. I do not feel I'm the doer. No ahankara. But outside, that person is invincible. Think of Swami Chinmaya. From 1951 to 1993, how many global tours he went on. How many discourses he gave. How many meetings he was part of. How many acharyas he taught. How many centers were created. Bala-Vihar. So many people went through Bala-Vihar when he didn't even know you were born. And he still created that. How many books he wrote. And he did all of that in around 40 years. Now you think of 40 years, you know. They can barely manage their finances. Many 40-year-olds don't know how to cook, like me. And I'm not 40. And it's because inside there is no karta. Avatishtati. The tactile point for 23 was trend avatishtati. That should be your role model. A word can be your role model also. Avatishtati. So I'm going back, okay? After Bhagavan Krishna from shlokas 10 to 18 explains to Prince Arjuna that as you think, so you become. In 19 and 20, Bhagavan Krishna says, if you think in a sattvic way, you can be free. Free of imbalance, free of chaos. In 21, Arjuna wants to know, how is someone free? How do I become free? So 22, 23, Bhagavan Krishna is explaining, how do you know someone is free? He shares in 24, when there is outer change, there is no chaos. See the difference between 22 and 24. In 22, when there's inner change, no chaos. In 24, when there's outer change, no chaos. So inside or outside, not affected by circumstance. No blaming. Full responsibility. A way to remember this, if you look at your hand, this is our body. Mind, intellect, ego, spirit. When you naturally rest your hands, your ego is identified with body, mind, intellect. And whenever there's a problem in life, what finger gets exposed the most? And don't say the middle finger. Your index finger gets exposed. My parents treated me like this. My schooling was like this. My Acharya was like this. My government was like this. And if you're paying attention, how many fingers are pointing towards you? 1 you, 3 me, isn't it? Someone who's not a seeker blames. But a seeker stops taking that finger outside like a gun and starts to bring that finger inside. All of the sorrow in my life, all of the joy in my life, I take responsibility for them. And when you take full responsibility, your ego is actually disidentifying from these limitations. Your ego meets the spirit. And what happens to the ego? The ego is not there anymore. There's only infinitude. A circle doesn't have a beginning or end, correct? Then life is good. They copied that from, that company copied that from. That's not the one. Okay, that's also a copy. Jnana Mudra. So whether there's inner change or outer change, no chaos. In 25, Bhagavan completes answering Prince Arjuna's question about how do you know freedom. And in 25, he says you know freedom when there's no pursuit of gain. If you pursue gain, that also means you are subject to loss. And if you're not pursuing gain, you're not subject to loss. That's freedom. Every time you meet someone, aren't you looking for some sort of benefit? Some sort of utility? When you came to this retreat, did you come just to be? Or did you come for some sort of gain? And suppose that gain didn't come, then you feel you're at a loss. Why did I give these days? Why did I give these fees? But the person who's reached the highest, you can't go higher. And this is why what is shared is, the only people not pursuing peace are those who are peaceful. As long as you're pursuing peace, you know you can be more peaceful. This is what took me to the Vedanta course. When externally I had everything, internally I still was looking for a gain. And I thought to myself, if I don't try to be happier, how will I know how happy I can be? Now going to the Vedanta course and Veda, knowing Antaha, my nature, I confidently and humbly tell all of you, every day of my life is happier. I've been saying this for 12 years. And my point here is that there's a factual highest. A factual highest is where you just don't come down anymore. Possible. We're not different in our upbringing, in our lifestyle. Vedanta will change our drishti. When you have nothing more to gain, what you have gained is independence. What a beautiful experience to gain independence. The tactile point for shloka 25. Let me go back. The tactile point for 24 was listen fully. I didn't mention that. Listen fully. When you listen fully, you pay attention that what's happening outside need not affect you inside. The tactile point for 25 was give your resources. Give your time. Because if you're giving, you're not in need of getting. Isn't it interesting that many mandirs that you go to, people only give if they get to put their name on that door. They get to put their name on that brick. The same people who use Bhagavad Gita and say, don't you know this? Are the same people who actually don't know this. I really like the idea of a Buddha board. I said board, not bar. Do you know what a Buddha board is? It's this canvas that you paint with water. So you have a brush with just water. And you paint whatever you do, and then as that water evaporates, what happens? It goes away. When we give resources, that should be our attitude. That I'm giving temporarily, but it was never mine to give in the first place. So you don't need your name to be permanent, your form to be permanent. In shloka 26, Bhagavan Krishna answers Arjuna's two questions. What was his first question? How do you know freedom? And then the more important question is, how to be free. And that's answered in shloka 26, how to be free. Which is give your resources, time, and effort. I think I mixed this up. I'm sorry. The way to be free is when you live a life of giving rather than receiving. So 25, 26 are blending into each other. The tactile point for 25 was give your resources and time. I'm explaining 26. How to be free when you just keep giving and giving and giving. And when you have nothing left to give, what do you give up? Ego. You give up that separation between you and Bhagavan. That's what surrender is. Surrender is where you stop depending on yourself and you start to depend on Bhagavan. And that is beyond rationale, as we learned. You need to have faith. And even higher than that, you need to have trust. When you give your resources, your time, your effort, you give up limits. You give up the gunas. When the gunas are not there, what do you rediscover? What do you re-see? Brahman. You see the truth. You see God. This is what our vision should be. A life of giving. Your vision should be like this and your lifestyle should match this. And if your lifestyle is not matching this, maybe the vision is not clear. Suppose I had a glass of water here and I come across this idea that there may be poison in this. See, poison, I have such clarity that poison will hurt and or kill me, that even if there's not poison in this cup of water, just the thought that there may be poison, I dispose of that. Not even down the drain, in the toilet, to really make sure that that's gone. That clarity brings conviction, brings confidence. When your vision is clear, your lifestyle will revolve around giving. And you will try to make yourself stronger so you can give more. I was at Georgia Tech speaking to a young adult who was part of our study group. And I asked him when I was at Georgia Tech in Atlanta, how's the study group going? And he said, I haven't been going of late. Why? I have exams I need to study. And I wanted to just hold him by his ears and bring his face close to me. So I didn't do that physically, but mentally I did. I said, why do you think this study group is an expense on your income statement? When actually it's an investment, it's an asset on your balance sheet. You think these 90 minutes are taking away from your study? Conversely, it helps you sleep, it helps you to analyze, it helps you to be calm. This is an investment, not an expense. If you want to be free, you need to keep investing in yourself so you can keep on giving. And the tactile point for Shloka 26 was establish an altar. Out of curiosity, did any of you establish an altar in your room here? I had asked you to do that yesterday, and you didn't do it. If you don't do the tactile points, you cannot touch the relative, you cannot touch the absolute. If you have a job you love, and a job that you're learned in, that is not lucrative, what did I say you'll be? Sorry. If you have a job that you love and is lucrative, but you're not learned in, what did I say that is? Ideal but unreal. Some of us make Vedanta like that. It's ideal but unreal. And who made it unreal? Because I choose not to practice. Remember Raja Parikshita and that bull. It is laughable to think someone else is going to live your life. Only you can live your life. Bhagavan completes this chapter. We are on Shloka 27. He's been explaining how do you know freedom, how do you be freedom. In 27, he just focuses on freedom. Brahmano hi pratishtaham.
Brahmano hi pratishtaham.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Amritasya vyayasya cha.
Shashvatasya cha dharmasya.
Shashvatasya cha dharmasya.
Sukhasya cha.
Sukhasya cha.
Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Amritasya vyayasya cha. Shashvatasya cha dharmasya. Sukhasya cha. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Aham means me, I. I am established in Brahman. Bhagavan Krishna here is saying he is not Krishna. He is saying he is infinite. Brahman, Bhagavan, synonyms here. And what is the nature of Brahman? To be amritasya. Mrita means to die. Worse than death is the fear of death. Death will kill you once. The fear of death will keep on killing you. Amritasya can mean deathlessness. I like to think of it as fearlessness. Avyayasya means the one who doesn't change. Inner change causes chaos. Outer change causes chaos. But for one who's established in infinity, infinity doesn't change. When you were younger, suppose you live in Los Angeles or San Jose, and you had to go to the other city. When you were younger, you thought, we have to go like to another part of the country. We have to fly there. It takes a whole week to get there and so on. But as you got older, you realized that this is a day trip. As you get older, it's just a business trip. You go there, you come back, right? That same idea you felt was so big, and now you feel it's so small. I feel like when we were younger, we thought that infinity was smaller. Now that we're older, infinity is bigger. Like infinity is growing, it's becoming a bigger number. Infinity is. Infinity's not growing. In century 2100, it's not going to be a bigger infinity. We can't say, oh, in 2017 it was the biggest infinity. Does it change? And see, that's you. If you know change, that means there's a part of you that's not changeless. If you're part infinity, what does that actually mean? You're infinity, no? How can there be parts to infinity? Shashvatasya. I really like this word. Shashvata means ever fresh. Ever fresh. That which is ever fresh can be old, but still relevant. Like this scripture, no? Anthropologists who are wrong think that this scripture is 2,500 years old. Isn't it fascinating? You're studying a subject that was written 2,500 years ago. Moha Mudgar, Bhajagovindam, is 1,000 years old. 1,000 years old. More than that, 1,500 years old. Ramayana, Tulsi Ramayana, some of you heard me speak on that recently. That's 500 years old. And here we are, still studying, because it's still relevant, no? Is the Atkins diet still relevant? People still follow the Atkins diet? You don't, it's not relevant. That was back in the day. Do they still use asbestos for insulation? No, not relevant. Shashvata, ever fresh. Dharmasya means integrated. How many of you have your sacred thread, your banana? How many threads are there? 3. These 3 threads are tied in a knot called the Brahma Granthi. What do these 3 threads stand for? Your thoughts, your words, and your actions should be tied around Brahma. That's what these threads stand for. If you sometimes see pictures of Acharya Shankara, he's holding a danda. It's called a dharma danda. That there should be no hypocrisy. The way you think is the way you speak, is the way you act. Dharma danda. That's what the word dharma means, integration. And this is the best. Sukhasya ekantikasya. Absolute. Ekanti means one, the highest. Sukha. The joy of all joys. Las Vegas. The joy of all joys is not outside of you. The joy of all joys is you. You are joy. How many times a day does a typical child laugh? Give me a number of how many times a day a typical child laughs.
100.
100? Anyone else? Give me 2 more numbers. This will be like the Price is Right. Higher or lower? 80. Okay, someone go higher. 90. Good. You're really boring at guessing. Next year you need to sleep on time. This is diamonds that are being given. Not because of Vivek, because of Bhagavad Gita. And I think you still think it's carbon. This is an opportunity that will not come back. And it's because there's a cause-effect relationship between last night and this morning. 300. The typical child laughs 300 times a day. And they're not even awake that long. Such high concentration of laughing each hour. How many times a day do you laugh? How many times a day does a typical adult laugh? You're all adults. Minus, that's a good answer. Give me specific numbers. 10? 50, okay, 50? 5? 15. That's 1-5. And you're awake longer, so the concentration goes down. Now what's laughable, I always match this up, laughable and disappointing, is that as the body grows up, our nature as if grows down. We just forget who we are. I had once asked 2 young girls in our Balavera assembly in Niagara Falls to prove this point. I said, why are you happy? One girl just gave me the dirtiest look. She didn't even bother answering that question. And another girl says, because I am. What an answer, because I am. If I asked you why you're happy, because it's Sunday, because it's Memorial Day. You know, you're giving all of these reasons. She says, Ananda Aham. You know, I am joy. This is why you should teach Bhagavad Gita. Not to teach, but to learn. I have 10 million awesome stories from interacting with kids. I'll tell you one of them. I have a planner that I use, and I code in this planner. Coding means only I understand what's happening in this planner. It's a physical planner. I circle, cross out, write, etc. I was at someone's home, and I was sitting on the ground writing some emails because I was on my way out. The last day before something is completed, I'm already in my next place, already thinking, planning for what needs to be done. So I'm thinking about what I need to do. And the 3 kids, 2 young boys come into my room. One is 5 and one is 3. And they want to interact with me, but I told them, you know, I'm writing some emails. So they got that I was busy. So they're kind of like peeking around behind my shoulder, looking around at my planner. And they couldn't see what that planner was. Like, they didn't realize it's English. It is English. So to them it looked like Sanskrit. And the only Sanskrit they see is chapter 15 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So they thought I had chapter 15 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita here. So the 5-year-old goes, Shri Paramatma. Now the 3-year-old, he doesn't know how to chant, so he just keeps going, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. It was so arjavam, so straightforward, you know? Vivekji, religion, God, chapter 15. He must want us to chant this. So straightforward, so sweet. I can just see them, you know, so seriously, you know, trying to chant and say Hari Om. That's you. But now you think you're an adult. I had heard one speaker say, I am not who I think I am. I am not who you think I am. I am what I think you're thinking about me. Obviously, we're going to be insecure if we have that many masks on, correct? At an absolute level, to make sure we're clear about this shloka. How many of you are wearing earrings? My hand is not up. Earrings, nose rings, belly button rings, finger rings, toe rings. Those are different names, correct? Toe ring, finger ring. So different names, different forms. Your earring is probably bigger if you have a hoop as compared to your finger ring. Different forms. But what are they actually? Assuming they're just gold. To you, suppose, and Sheila and I never exchanged engagement rings nor wedding rings. I am cheap, acknowledged, but she also didn't need one or want one. Suppose I go back to Niagara Falls with not a wedding ring, with a ring. Sheila, do you want to marry me? With a ring. And she's so happy, you know, you thought about me and you spent this money, but suppose we run into financial troubles and we have to sell this, so we go to a local jeweler. And Sheila goes, you know, can you please give us whatever money for this? And that person says, we'll give you $500. And Sheila says, but my husband gave this to me. Does that person care? That goldsmith is just looking at gold. No forms, no names. Correct? Let's take it to the lake behind us. Waves, bubbles, froth. Each of them thinks it's separate. I'm a wave and you're a wave. I'm bigger. I'm going to crash into you. Then there's bubbles and froth. But if you're identified with water, there's not waves or bubbles or froth. There's only water. In this shloka, Bhagavan Krishna is saying, you are life. Not living. Living is a verb. Life is a noun. You are life. And the expression of life is living. That's who you are. And living can come and go, but life is. One book that you must read in your lifetime, when you are ready to change your life, change your living, is I Am That by Nisargadatta Maharaj. His name is Sri Nisargadatta. We call him Maharaj. He's the King of Kings. Please heed my words carefully. If you're not interested in changing your lifestyle and vision, don't read this. That's exactly what my father told me. He was reading this book, and I saw it, and I said, what is this book about? It's such a simple title, I Am That. And he said, I'll tell you if you're ready to make changes. And so I didn't. I was not ready to make changes in my life. I did not read it. I did read this at the Vedanta course when I was ready. The most powerful line in this whole text is, there is only life. There is no one who lives a life. If you can contemplate on that, there is only life. There is no one who lives a life. In other words, there's no individuality. There is no living. There is only life. You don't have to do anything. You just have to know this. If you were dreaming and you woke up now or in your bed, did you have to do anything to become the waker? You just had to wake up, and you instantly went from the dreamer to the waker. They're mutually exclusive. In the same way, you just have to know your life. You don't have to do anything to become life. You just have to know this. That is the power of this knowledge. I'll bring this to a relative level. Okay? If we want to understand this message, there's a whole expression of compassion. And I'll start at the top. Brahman. Brahman is infinity. Brahman has no form, no name. Can you understand Brahman? So Brahman, out of compassion, becomes Bhagavan. Bhagavan takes on a form, takes on a name, almost like rock climbing. There's a grip there. Something for you to hold on to. Do we all understand Bhagavan? So Bhagavan takes on, through compassion, takes on more of a form and name, which we call Shastra, or scripture. Bhagavan's breath is the scripture. In Ramayana, what is shared is Narayana, Bhagavan Vishnu, breathed out, and that crystallized and became the Veda. That's a really lovely scene. Bhagavan just breathed out, and that crystallized and became the scripture. So Bhagavan, or God, takes on a form and name and becomes a Shastra or scripture. Do we understand the scriptures? So the scripture takes on more of a form and name, out of compassion, and becomes the Sadguru. The Guru who leads you to Sat or Brahman. And where are we? At the bottom. And the Guru's hand is out. Hold my hand. I know how to navigate all this because I'm tuned into Sat, into the truth. I can take you across the terrain of the scriptures, show you Bhagavan. You can become Brahman. What do we have to do? Just hold on. What do? We try to pull the guru back out of Brahman, you know? Come here. The weather is better. The food is better. Just have to hold on. Hold on here means listen, reflect, follow. And you will reach Brahman. Brahman's not out here. Brahman is you. A very simple way to hold on to the Sadguru's hand is to remember he or she is the karta, you are just the karana. Karta means he or she is the doer, you are the helper. Karana means gauna, which means secondary doer. In other words, you're just a helper. You're the sous chef. And the Sadguru is the karta, the mukhya doer. If we can remember that, we will hold on to our Sadguru's hand. But as long as we believe we are the doer, that means our hand is like this. We want to high five the doer, but we don't want to hold on. The tactile point is your last tactile point. You got 8 tactile points, I think, last year. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Now you've been given 12 more, I think. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. I gave you 9, 18. I'm giving you 10 more. So 18 tactile points. Here's your last tactile point. Perform a safety check. Perform a safety check. Is there anyone here who doesn't know how to drive? Okay, a couple of you. For all of those who took driving school, you had your road test. One of the things you have to do before you get in the car is walk around the car to make sure that everything is safe. Like we know if a car is safe by looking at it from the outside. But you're supposed to do that. Now what this means for us is before you do anything, and I'll qualify this to begin, before you do anything significant, perform a safety check by remembering all of these parties. Remember the Guru, remember God, remember infinity. Guru and Shastra I'm putting together, okay, for simplicity. So I'm about to drive, I remember infinity, God, Guru. Then I drive. I'm about to write a test. Do the same thing. These tactile points I share with you are my own signs. Before I do anything significant like eating, I'll tell you exactly what goes through my mind. I say, Om Aham Brahmasmi. I am infinite. Then I say, Om Namo Narayanaya. But I remember my personal God. And then I say, Om Sadgurave Namah. I remember my personal Guru. And then I match that up by saying, I am nothing. My relationship with my Guru is, I am nothing. My relationship with my God is, I am yours. Whatever you need me to be, I will be. And in regards to infinity, I remember I am all. If I am Brahman, that means I am all. And then I eat. Then I shower. Then I walk. Then I interact. That's a safety check that the ego doesn't come in and damage what's happening. Perform that safety check. Brahman, Bhagavan, Guru, know your relationship with them. Each chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita is completed with a Sankalpa Vakya. Vakya means words, Sankalpa means promise. These are words, these are writings that indicate a promise. A promise to who? A promise to yourself. Please repeat after me, nice and loud. Om Tat Sat.
Om Tat Sat.
Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su.
Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su.
Upanishatsu.
Upanishatsu.
Brahma Vidyayam.
Brahma Vidyayam.
Yoga Shastre.
Yoga Shastre.
Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade.
Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade.
Gunatraya Vibhaga Yogo Nama.
Gunatraya Vibhaga Yogo Nama.
Chaturdhasho Dhyayaha.
Chaturdasho Dhyayaha.
Now I want you to chant this together with me, louder, and all that you've experienced for 2 years now, feel that promise that you're making to yourself, that you will listen, reflect, practice, whether it's the tactile points or the relative points or the absolute points. Om Tat Sat. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su. Upanishatsu. Brahma Vidyayam. Yoga Shastre. Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. Gunatraya Vibhaga Yogo Nama. Chaturdasho Dhyayaha. What this is sharing simply is Om Tat Sat. This is the truth. What is the truth? All that you learned last year and this year. This truth is found in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is found in the Upanishads. The Upanishads are found in Brahma Vidya. Knowledge of the infinite, knowledge of the self. Okay? So I need you to visualize this. So what you've experienced, okay, is in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is in a deeper Shastra, which is the Upanishad. The Upanishad is in a deeper Shastra, almost like the framework for the Upanishad, which is Brahma Vidya. This Brahma Vidya is found in the Yoga Shastra. Now it's coming back up. Yoga is a practical approach to the Upanishads. I think I already talked about that. This Yoga Shastra is found in the dialogue between Bhagavan Krishna and Prince Arjuna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And this is called, so all of this is the form, and this is called a chapter on the division of the gunas. Thus, our study of the excerpts of this chapter is complete. When Prince Arjuna was receiving this knowledge, you have to think about it. He was in northern Bharat, open field. It's hot, it's windy. There's millions of people in front of him, ready with their bows and arrows, ready to release. There's millions of people behind him with their bows and arrows, ready to release. So by accident, they could hit him also. He's literally in the grips of death, the jaws of death. And he sees his family guide, that is Bhishma. He sees his teacher, Drona, his uncles, his nephews, and he's feeling dejected. Bhagavan Krishna is there. He just thinks this is his cousin. Bhagavan Krishna starts speaking to him in Sanskrit. And he shares not one shloka or 18 shlokas, but 700 shlokas. And that's how Prince Arjuna learned. Now you think of all of you. You're in Southern California with air conditioning. Nobody behind you is trying to kill you, I hope. Nobody in front of you is trying to kill you. You're studying the same Sanskrit shlokas, but only this year 10. I don't know why I can't count correctly. You're learning this with a book, with a commentary, with an explanation of that commentary, with how to practice all of this. Who's more bhagya? You. I am. then Prince Arjuna. And how do you know if you're actually feeling this fortune, this gratitude? How do you know that? Is if you live this. Om Sarve